Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and hope you're all doing great. So, it do be a great week to be a Wheel of Time fan, it do be indeed. Now, I hope you've been paying attention to what I've just said, because that is what relates to the latest character revealed thanks to Geeky Airy over on whatseries.com, and that is of course none other than Bayle Domon has been cast, and we have the actor who has been cast, as in leaked, thanks to her. So, without further ado, let us get into this. So, Julian Lewis-Jones has been cast indeed as Bayle Domon for season 2. So, of course, this is fantastic news for everybody. I'm sure we've all been hoping with bated breath that we would have some sort of confirmation of Bayle Domon being in this second season of the Wheel of Time. And thankfully, that has come to fruition. So, yeah, we can kind of take a collective breath in and then out, because we've now got Bayle Domon. Now, of course, with this being the second season and having moved away from the whole and the entirety of book 1, The Eye of the World, of course there leaves a few question marks as to just how exactly are they going to introduce Bayle Domon into this second season, because of course, as we all know, he's obviously introduced in The Eye of the World when he helps Rand, Matt and Tom escape from Shadar the Goth. So we are well and truly past that, so it's going to be really interesting to see the way in which they introduced the character in this second season. Now, of course, I think it's still going to be very much in a similar manner, but obviously at a later point he will no doubt be, I would presume and hope, on his ship, the Spray. So yeah, that should be really interesting to see how they go about that. More on that later, but what I want to do right now in this portion of the video is actually focus a little bit on Julian Lewis-Jones and go into kind of his background within his acting career, what he's been doing, and just a little bit about himself. So let us get into that. Now, what is really interesting to see, and I think this is kind of ironic but also funny, is if you go onto his Instagram account, you will see he's quite an avid lover of fishing. So he's out at sea quite a lot, and a lot of his photos showcase that. You can see him out at sea, you know, catching loads of fish and, you know, other wildlife from out in the sea, which I think is kind of really cool to see. Someone that loves to be out at sea quite a lot is actually playing Bayle Domon as a captain of a vessel. So that's kind of really cool to see. There's a parallel there between the actor and the role that he's playing. So I think that's really nice to see, and something I feel adds a little bit more depth to when you cast an actor into a role, because then obviously he's got a natural, if you want to call it, kinship with the person he will be portraying in the show. You already have a small sense of understanding of that character thanks to their kind of love of the seas. So I think that's really cool and a nice note to take when it comes to this particular cast member playing Bayle Domon. Now, of course, moving away from that really cool, interesting piece of information, what are his acting credentials to date? Well, let us go over that right now and go and see what he has in fact, you know, played in so far in his career. So, here we go. Interestingly enough, he's been in Justice League, Zack Snyder's cut. So obviously that's quite a big film, although he didn't have a big role in that. He played one of those smaller part characters. He played, what is it? The ancient Atlantean king. So yeah, he was just there or thereabouts. What else has he been in? He's been in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is the video game, so he played the voice in that. Midsummer Murders. So a lot of these are kind of to do with UK TV shows, so maybe some of you will be familiar and quite a lot of you might not be. But he's got quite a long list, particularly when it comes to TV series. He's been on Casualty as well, Foyle's War. These are all shows that are, you know, UK based. I don't know whether you guys over in the US or wherever else in the world you're, you know, situated in. I've seen him in any of these. But he's got a huge career dating back all the way to 1995. So he's been in the industry for an exceptional period of time. But yeah, so that's a little bit of an idea of his role. And just one other thing, just looking at Julian and obviously Bayle Domon in terms of the depictions we've had of him from all the artists, there seems to be this really nice resemblance that I'm seeing with just the way they both look. I think if we add, or when they add, I should say, the team, this huge beard that we've all known Bayle Domon to have, I think is going to look fantastic, and is really going to be the part. He will look the part of Bayle Domon once we see him finally in that second season, or potentially maybe he'll show up in the trailer, who knows. So let's now get back to the kind of big question mark surrounding the character, and that is of course what I mentioned earlier, and his introduction. So as I said then, we've moved away from the Eye of the World, where he's introduced when he helps Rand, Tom and Matt escape from Shadow Goth. So his kind of initial introduction and his first kind of, what's the word here I'm looking for? Plot. His first kind of introduction for us as readers into the Wheel of Time world no longer in a sense exists. So they've got to find a really interesting way in which to introduce him that still makes sense to the story that they're going to try to tell in the second season and moving forward. I think obviously for the most part his story, I would hope, and I'm presuming a lot of you guys would feel the same way in this, would be staying as as true to his character arc in these books. So everything that happens all the way to A Memory of Light, the final book in the Wheel of Time series, will be most thoroughly followed and used in the TV series. So they can obviously use that and go to all of those points at a later date, because of course within this second season it's all about the introduction of Bayle Domon and how he fits into the overall arc of season 2. Now one thing that really could indicate just how they introduced this character is how big of a part he's going to be playing in the second season. Is he going to be one of these reoccurring characters that is throughout the second season, or is he going to be one of those kind of side characters that comes in and out at certain times, or perhaps we even only see him for one episode and he's only in the show for a brief period in the second season? It's really hard to say at this point what they're going to be doing with the character, but just to go over the article Geeky Eerie published over on What Series to Come, they actually do give us a little bit of information and hindsight into potentially just how big a role he will be having in the second season, because she mentioned how the actor was in fact seen out, of course, on the set in both Morocco for about a week, but also he was out in Prague for a week at the end of July. So that would indicate maybe 2 weeks worth of filming. I would say Morocco is 100% a week worth of filming. So that would indicate he's of course going to be maybe in one particular episode, and that was his introduction. And maybe the time that he was in Prague was, as we all know, that's the base and the whole operation of the Wheel of Time. That's the center of the Wheel of Time. But of course they do have their own studio out there where they have their own sets, and they obviously of course do filming there. So it is most likely looking to be he's filmed 2 weeks worth of footage for his part in this show. So with that being said, if we look at the whole landscape in terms of the main characters and the actors that play them, they're on set for literally the entirety of the production and the shooting of each season. So it's most likely looking he's going to be having a small role on the show. That is of course if it is only 2 weeks that he's been filming there. So that, indicates and gives us a understanding of just kind of what his role will be in the second season. And so we can kind of then come up with a more educated guess in terms of how they're going to introduce the character. So having refreshed my memory on Bayle Domon's kind of goings on in the Great Hunt and what he gets up to, there's now quite a obvious route in to introduce his character, because of course, as we all know, most of his scenes involve the Saunchen, and of course, as we saw at the end of season 1, the Saunchen are going to be, from the looks of it, the main focal point of the kind of big bad, so to speak, for the second season. And I think that's just going to be the natural way in which he's going to be introduced, because as we all know, spoiler warning for anybody that hasn't hasn't read, even, getting ahead of myself there, The Great Hunt, I would skip this section very momentarily, maybe 20 to 30 to 1 minute, and then come and watch it from then on. But as we all know, he does manage to pick up one of these seals on the Dark One's prison amongst his travels. Then he, of course, takes an offer and he makes his way to Tommen Head. Now, on his way there, he is captured along with the Spray, thanks to Egwene and, of course, the Saunchen, where he is now taken captive and presented before the High Lord Turak, where he then obviously keeps him as a storyteller and, of course, delivers the seal on the Dark One's prison. But of course, later on in the Great Hunt, he then, of course, makes his escape. He does wait as long as he, possibly can, waiting for Nynaeve, Elaine and Min to come and board the ship, but then eventually he has to kind of set sail without them. So that is the way I think is going to be the most logical and plausible way they're going to introduce him. I think it keeps things nice and simple. You don't have to overthink or overcomplicate matters in terms of how you introduce the character. It keeps it simple in terms of just stay into his story, his arc in the book series, and it doesn't confuse anything further than needs to be. And I think that's going to be what we will be seeing of Bayle Domon. I think that's going to be really cool to see, and I can't wait to see how Julian handles this character, how he portrays him, the accents, how that's going to sound. Because, when we read the books and when I read the books, I've got this kind of accent in my head because of obviously the way he, speaks with his, fortune prick me and it do be a good day or a great day, like that sort of thing. So I think that's going to be really interesting. Anyway, guys, we have come to the end of today's video. If you've enjoyed it, of course, please leave a like on the video down below, and any comments you've had from this video that you'd like to leave, do so as well. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later on in the week with another Wheel of Time video.